I kind of got like car depressed. Like, honestly, like it was pretty bad. And I went through some very temporary cars in order to try to fill that gap because I really wasn't happy with it. A lawsuit there's like an insurance problem and all this stuff. Some body shop messed up and they told me I can't talk about it. So it's very expensive having the 5 buildings and having all the employees and all the stuff. So kind of cut all the power bills and cut all the laborers and all of that expense.
Some men collect cars. Houston Crosta collected other people's dreams, then sold them back by the hour. He possessed the rarest entrepreneurial gift, complete emotional detachment from the very thing that made him millions. While others fell in love with horsepower and chrome, he saw only numbers on a spreadsheet. This superpower made him rich. It also made him hollow. By May 2025, the hollowness had won, standing before a camera with the tired eyes of someone who had aged a decade in 10 years. He whispered 8 words that would end an empire.
But as I stand here before you, royalty is now closed.
I feel like this day should have come earlier. What followed was the most honest thing Houston Crosta had ever said, and the beginning of the most dangerous conversation an entrepreneur can have with themselves. Welcome back to Tuna No Crust, the largest car TV show news on YouTube. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's roll. Houston Crosta wasn't born into wealth. A Las Vegas native with restless ambition, he spent his early 20s grinding on the Strip, reportedly renting motorized scooters to tourists, walking Las Vegas Boulevard for 8 hours a day just to make a buck. But inside that daily hustle, something bigger was brewing. What set Houston apart was his mindset. He possessed an almost supernatural ability to see opportunity where others saw obstacles, to remain unemotional about material possessions while understanding their emotional value to others. "I'm the least emotional when it comes to cars," he once said, treating million-dollar machines like inventory rather than objects of desire. This cold-blooded pragmatism would become his superpower. In 2015, at age 25, he bet everything on an impossible vision: let everyday people feel like billionaires behind the wheel of exotic cars. Royalty Exotic Cars launched with just a few vehicles and massive ambition. Houston didn't just want to rent cars, he wanted to sell transformation itself. Crosta's breakthrough came when he realized he could turn himself into the advertisement. Starting in late 2016, his YouTube channel gave viewers a front row seat to his high-octane life. The content was addictive, buying damaged supercars at auction, documenting their repairs, then showcasing the finished products in his rental fleet. Popular themes included flooded car restorations, engine swaps, and dramatic reveals of customized hypercars. His on-camera persona was magnetic, part approachable car nerd, part big shot entrepreneur. Viewers watched him casually drop millions on new supercars or undertake wild projects like converting a $1.5 million Bugatti Veyron from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive just for spectacle. Every business decision became content-worthy, every purchase dramatic enough for a video. The strategy was brilliant, entertainment that doubled as advertising while building his personal brand. His most popular content featured the most expensive and exclusive machines. Videos of Bugatti modifications, Koenigsegg test drives, and behind-the-scenes looks at million-dollar purchases regularly pulled in hundreds of thousands of views. The channel became a destination for car enthusiasts who wanted to live vicariously through someone who could casually drop $2 million on a hypercar and then let strangers drive it. Royalty's fleet expanded to dozens of ultra-exotic machines, from Ferraris to McLarens, even a Bugatti. The company proudly proclaimed itself the premier leader in supercar rentals across the United States, with a fleet of over 30 supercars. Las Vegas had never seen a rental outfit quite like this. The growth was so explosive that by the late 2010s, it expanded into side ventures, selling merchandise, and even hosting a Vegas driving event called the Royalty Rally. But the YouTube fame came with its own psychological costs. Every business decision had to be content-worthy, every car purchase needed to be dramatic enough for a video, and Houston's personal life became increasingly public. The line between Houston Crosta the person and the YouTube personality began to blur, creating pressures that would later contribute to his burnout. Behind the glamorous posts and 5-star reviews, Houston faced mounting pressures that tested his character in ways success never had. Like any business handling thousands of customers and expensive machinery, Royalty had complaints, and some were explosive. Many renters raved about the thrill, but a pattern emerged around hidden fees, surprise insurance add-ons, hefty cleaning charges, and large security deposits that left customers feeling blindsided. The fine print covered these charges, but not everyone walked away feeling it was fair. Beneath Royalty's nearly 2,000 TripAdvisor reviews averaging a perfect 5 out of 5, frustration simmered. One 2017 incident became Vegas legend and revealed Houston's fierce protective streak. Customer Nick Doomey wrote a scathing review online, and Royalty allegedly retaliated by posting images of his driver's license and credit card on the internet. They posted my personal information online in retaliation for my negative review, Doomey complained in a BBB filing. Royalty defended itself aggressively, claiming they had blurred sensitive details while accusing Doomey of fraud. The company even boasted they had filed charges for credit card fraud, chargeback fraud, and defamation against the reviewer. Houston had turned a customer complaint into open warfare, showing how pressure was affecting his judgment and pushing him toward increasingly combative responses. As Royalty grew, so did Houston's legal troubles. When you're renting $300,000 supercars, even minor disputes can escalate into major lawsuits. The most significant came from Texas in 2020, when Dallas exotic car dealer Boss Exotics purchased a used McLaren 720S from Royalty for $135,000, seemingly a bargain for a barely used supercar. But shortly after delivery, Boss Exotics got a nasty surprise. A McLaren dealership inspection found over $44,000 in needed repairs, and the factory warranty had been voided because Royalty had used the car as a rental. They claimed they'd been sold a hard-ridden ex-rental in glossed-over condition, suing for breach of contract, fraud, and deceptive trade practices. The lawsuit dragged on for years. By October 2023, a judge denied Royalty's motion to dismiss, meaning Houston was still fighting this battle 3 years later. Every dollar spent on lawyers was a dollar not invested in the business. By 2023 to 2024, he was juggling court dates and mounting legal bills while trying to keep customers happy and his fleet running. In late 2024, a former business associate filed suit in Colorado alleging Royalty had breached a contract related to a failed vehicle modification partnership. Now Houston faced lawsuits from multiple directions, upset customers, and disgruntled partners alike. All this litigation was expensive and exhausting. Houston later admitted these troubles strained the company's finances and added massively to his personal stress. The man who once walked the strip for 8 hours renting scooters was now dealing with constant anxiety that any phone call could bring devastating legal news. Running exotic car rentals became Houston's emotional nightmare as customers crashed high-powered cars, sometimes with devastating consequences. Las Vegas tourists, with more enthusiasm than skill, treated public roads like racetracks, and the results were predictably grim. In September 2021, a tragedy struck that made national headlines and cast a harsh spotlight on the entire industry. An off-duty police officer from Connecticut vacationing in Vegas crashed a rented Rolls-Royce Cullinan while driving drunk, killing his passenger. Though that Rolls-Royce wasn't from Royalty, the disaster made everyone ask, are these rental companies handing out supercars too easily? Las Vegas authorities certainly took notice. By 2023, Clark County officials found that 8 to 12% of all fatal crashes involved exotic rental cars, with 95% involving impaired drivers. The situation became so alarming that lawmakers floated extreme ideas, requiring breathalyzer interlocks in every rented supercar, or installing speed governors to prevent customers from pushing 200 miles per hour on public streets. Surprisingly, Royalty didn't fight these proposals. They supported them. Tony Catchings, Houston's general manager, spoke out in favor of stricter vetting for renters and safety devices, arguing that renting a 700-plus horsepower vehicle should require more than a regular driver's license. When an industry starts welcoming regulation, the situation is dire. Meanwhile, accidents kept happening, each one more bad press. Royalty had its own share of spectacular wrecks that Houston would sometimes post on social media as sobering reminders. In one notorious post, they showed a mangled McLaren 720S that a renter had destroyed, captioned, "Man down." It happened again. The image of that crumpled supercar said everything. These machines were literally crashing and burning, taking profits and reputation down with them. For Houston, every totaled Lamborghini and every headline about a deadly crash was deeply personal. Not only did it hurt him as a car enthusiast, it threatened his business's viability. Insurance premiums were sky high to begin with, and each incident sent them higher. Worse, if a crash wasn't covered, say the renter was intoxicated and violated the contract, royalty could be on the hook for the entire value of a six-figure supercar. "I've seen things I never want to see again," he confided, referring to gruesome accident scenes and near misses. The fun had completely drained out, replaced by anxiety that any phone call could bring devastating news of another disaster. Day after day, he dealt with horrific crashes, angry calls about speeding supercars, and even fatalities tangentially connected to his brand. The stress was etched on his face. The cheerful YouTuber with the $1,000,000 smile began showing signs of genuine wear. By early 2025, Houston faced pressures from every direction. The exotic rental industry was under siege from multiple threats that his usual drive couldn't overcome. New competition from apps like Turo and peer-to-peer car-sharing services gave tourists cheaper, easier access to exotic cars without the overhead of maintaining massive fleets. Traditional rental companies suddenly looked risky and outdated. Rising insurance premiums and maintenance costs ate into already thin margins. Every spectacular crash sent insurance rates higher, while the constant threat of regulation loomed over the industry. Add mounting legal battles, angry customers, and the psychological toll of managing other people's dangerous fantasies, and Houston was caught in a perfect storm. His personality traits that had driven success, emotional detachment, relentless drive, willingness to take massive risks, were now working against him. The cold pragmatism that helped him scale quickly became a liability when dealing with increasingly complex human and legal problems. But walking away meant more than closing a business. It meant abandoning an identity. Houston Crosta had become synonymous with his company. His personal brand, social media presence, and public identity were completely intertwined with the business. For someone who had poured everything into building an empire, stepping back required confronting fundamental questions about who he was beyond the cars and cameras. Running the business for a decade made him feel like he'd aged 10 years longer than 10 years. The stress was visible. The cheerful YouTube personality increasingly strained under the weight of constant crisis management. Behind the scenes, Houston began quietly preparing for what would become the hardest decision of his entrepreneurial life. On May 19, 2025, Houston demonstrated perhaps his most impressive character trait, the wisdom to recognize when change was necessary. Without warning, Royalty posted simply, "Royalty Exotics Car Rentals is closed. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for being part of the journey. To be continued." In his farewell video, eyes glassy but voice firm, he made a striking confession about feeling the closure should have come earlier. It was the admission of someone who had learned to read his own limits, rare in the entrepreneurial world. The public reaction was intense, but Houston had been preparing behind closed doors, quietly selling vehicles and repositioning for what came next. True to his adaptable nature, Houston didn't disappear. He evolved. By mid-2025, the company had rebranded from a rental service to Las Vegas' premier hypercar dealer, focusing on buying and selling rather than renting for lower liability and potentially higher margins. Houston was leveraging his industry connections and reputation to broker high-end car deals, essentially becoming a luxury dealer for the elite. The new focus included sourcing rare hypercars for buyers and performing sought-after modifications. One niche Houston leaned into was converting certain Lamborghinis from automatic to 6-speed manual transmissions, a valuable service for collectors that few others could pull off. But perhaps more revealing of his character was that he had already diversified before the rental closure. In 2020, Houston and friend Edmund Barsegian co-founded Houston's Hot Chicken, HHC, a Las Vegas-based hot chicken sandwich chain. What started as a single-location passion project exploded into a rapidly expanding franchise across multiple states, becoming the talk of the town in Vegas and earning spots on top 100 fast casual lists. This venture proved his entrepreneurial skills transcended cars entirely. The man who put tourists in Ferraris could also build a successful food empire, applying the same branding genius and business acumen to hot sauce that he'd used for horsepower. His relationship with success remained fascinatingly complex. He could casually spend millions on business ventures while maintaining the practical mindset of someone who once hustled on the streets. The duality was perfectly captured in one gesture. He famously bought a Rolls-Royce Cullinan with custom pink interior for his 5-year-old daughter as the ultimate gift, balancing extravagance with genuine family devotion. Now, with the rental chaos behind him, Houston had more time for family and fewer 3 a.m. phone calls about crashed Lamborghinis. But those close to him knew this wasn't retirement. His social media still teased big automotive projects, and he'd hinted that to be continued really meant something significant was brewing. Houston Crosta's story reveals the psychological complexities of modern entrepreneurship in the social media age. He built an empire through brilliant marketing and sheer will, but success brought challenges no amount of drive could solve. His journey illustrates how personal brand and business success can become so intertwined they create their own destructive pressures. Most importantly, his story demonstrates the courage required to walk away from something you've built when you recognize it's no longer serving you. In a culture celebrating grinding until you break, Houston chose adaptation over destruction. The kid who hustled on the strip became the king of Vegas supercars, then had the wisdom to step back when the crown became too heavy. His promise of "to be continued" reflects his core personality. The restless ambition that drove him from scooter rentals to supercar empire to restaurant mogul. Houston Crosta doesn't settle. He evolves. Whatever comes next will bear the unmistakable mark of someone who understands both the power of dreams and the importance of knowing when to wake up. The story isn't over, it's simply entering its next chapter. If this deep dive breakdown gave you some insight, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more Gearhead exposes, because we're not done yet. Until next time, keep it loud, keep it real. Tuna No Crust signing off.